planners and bullet journals, art projects, organized planner sheet.
Well, hello! I welcome you to Organized Planner Chic. I'm Lucinda, and this is the 5th episode in my journey for PTSD therapy. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, be sure and check that out. It'll really help you understand how I got diagnosed with PTSD. In the first video, I'm actually talking to you face to face and telling my story, and then you can see how I've progressed so far. And so I'm going to pick up from where we left off last week. This was a really, really difficult week for me. Let me just start off by saying that, and it'll make sense as I go along. But I'm able to read the first couple of pages to you, but I'm going to start off with kind of what I did for art this time. So I think going forward, like I did last week, I kind of had a theme for the art. So this time what I did is I didn't tape that first page because on the back of, this was the last one from last week, on this part it was already thick because I had added the masking tape and painted over it with acrylic and had that mixed media paper that I taped on top of the regular page, so it was nice and strong and thick. But starting with the next set, I attached, I don't know if you can kind of tell right here, but I attached 2 pages with some framers tape, which I used to use on my part-time job that I had in a custom framing and fine art shop. I taped that 2 pages together just on the right side, and I did that all the way through to today. I think I may have gotten an extra day on there too, so that I could have nice thick paper, because I wanted to use my Jane Davenport mermaid markers, which are filled with ink, and they definitely seep through regular paper. Even though these have pretty good pages, it definitely seeps through. So 2 pages worked perfectly. And so I just kind of colored with the different ones. You can kind of see through here. Just did a little dab of this and a little dab of that, using some of the different colors of the markers. And then I traced around them with, I think it was my fine point Faber-Castell Pit Artist pen. So this is an extra small, but I used a bigger point to draw around them. And then I just took, all the way down to here, these different little designs with simple with the markers. And then I took some paper, just some craft, kind of thinner craft. It's almost the thickness of rice paper, but the craft color, and just kind of drip pages and tape them, or not tape them, glue them in here like little books. So I put a date on the front page of each little book, and then I wrote on the inside. Okay, so I'm going to start where we left off, because last time I had just come back from the therapist, so I hadn't written down what happened yet, so this will kind of tie us in. So on September the 13th, I said today was a pretty good day. I told my therapist I was no longer blaming myself for the trauma. Also, I didn't blame myself for the challenges I faced this past week. I was supposed to have written my trauma on the first day following my last appointment, but I waited until yesterday. She asked me to name my feelings about what I wrote. As I said words, she asked for more. That should have said more. I cried and she let me, like she had all the time in the world. What I meant was I cried and she just let me cry, and she just waited. She didn't stop me. I was hoping for her distraction, like I was hoping for her to stop me with something she needed to talk about or to move the time along, but she didn't. And it was because the point, she said, was for me to feel. She said it will never be a fond memory, but it will be a memory I can have. If I can't allow myself to feel, I can't move on. So that's where we left off. Okay, so then this was, that was the day of therapy. Here was the next day. So my homework, oh, and by the way, starting, I think next week I'm going to have you journal with me, like watch me journal and set up my pages like I did the previous weeks, except for last week I didn't. But I just didn't have time this week to worry about dealing with what came up, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, and trying to manage that with my trauma, and setting up cameras and lights. I just couldn't. So anyway, so my homework is to write my trauma again today, read it each day, and record my feelings. Also, I am to continue the worksheets that describe challenges, what I say to myself when they arise, and what I feel as a result. So when something happens, write down what I said to myself as a result of that challenge, and then how did those things that I said to myself make me feel. I just want to take a break today. I think that's okay. I will start on the homework tomorrow. Right now, I'm going to take photos for my Etsy shop. Then I'm going to do some mindless crafting. Mindless crafting is always good. Okay, so then this is what these pages look like. But I can't tell you what happened. But I got a phone call, and it had a direct impact on me, and it was messed up. And I just can't tell you what it was, but that's all I could think about. I couldn't even think about my trauma. I couldn't write my trauma. I just felt like, God, come on. I mean, isn't one thing enough for me to deal with right now? Isn't me trying to heal from this enough? Why? And so I did my worksheets. I did my worksheets every day for this. I didn't write down my trauma, but I did do my worksheets about something happening and how I spoke to myself and how I felt. So I wasn't sure how to describe what I was saying to myself, because it was just kind of almost numb and a blur, but there was still stuff there. It's kind of hard to explain. So she had given me a list of stuck points. That's the things that you say to yourself that keep you from moving on. And so I just went down the list, and as I found something on the list that I felt, oh yeah, that's one of them, then I wrote it down. So what I said to myself was, if I let people get close to me, I'll get hurt again. I must be on guard at all times. I must control everything that happens to me. Other people should not be trusted. People in authority always abuse their power. Wow, those are really strong statements when I sit here and read them now, you know, because they're all absolutes, rather. And nothing is absolute. I mean, there's all and always and everyone and everything are all absolutes, and nothing is absolute. And yes, a lot of people can hurt you and a lot of horrible things can happen, but it does not apply. But that's how you feel at the time. I mean, that's the things, those are those first thoughts, and I can't tell you what the feelings were and associated with that, because then it just reveals too much. But yeah, that was the first day. And you know, I just wrote down all the discussions and all of the things that followed each day, as they were all about the same thing. And that's what's on all of these pages. So then I talked to the therapist. Today was my appointment. The good thing is I did not blame myself at all for this. Praise the Lord. That hurdle that I had to get over as a result of my trauma, I have gotten over. But and I only had like one day, I think it might have been the second day, that I did feel depressed about it, but I didn't stay there. But I was just confused and not sure about what I'm supposed to do with it. And so one of the things that I learned right before, or not learned, but really came to terms with right before I met with her, is at church right now we're doing a deep study on trials. And whenever even though I know all the scriptures that we covered, I mean, I've known them most of my life, for sure in my adult life. I've applied different ones at different times. But when you really put them all together in a deep study, you really come to realize that the life of a Christian is a life of trials. It is a life of struggles. And even though I know, and I've said to people, that Jesus said, you're going to suffer for my name's sake. Just because you love me, you're going to suffer. But it's still different when you really sit there and not just take that one scripture. Because then you think, oh yeah, life is a struggle. Oh yeah, life's hard. Oh yeah, life's not, fair. But when you really put them all together, when you think about, I used to quote all the time in Romans that we glory in tribulation, knowing that tribulation brings forth perseverance, and perseverance character, and character hope, and hope never fails. Okay, that's one thing. But when you put that together with, don't be surprised, and Peter, I think it's First Peter said, don't be surprised when bad things happen to you. You know, like it's supposed to happen to you. There's a verse that says, and I'll list some of those in the comments below or in the description below. But when you think about that, along with the verse that says that to count it all joy when you experience tribulation, when you put that with that it's the scripture that says that it is intentional, that so that you will draw closer to Christ, so that he becomes your absolute everything, that compared to how much you love him and how much he loves you and how awesome it is to be his child, the things that happen to us are nothing. I mean, I can't even put into words how revealing it has become for me this week. And that, you know, I think when I went through the abuse in marriage before, I mean, you know, physical and emotional, all kinds of different abuse when I was married before, I used to quote in Romans, I think it's Romans 5:23, I have to look it up, but I used to quote it all the time thinking that, yeah, this is going to bring me perseverance. I'll be able to endure the next thing. And I know that this is going to end and I'm going to have, you know, a positive experience and positive life and all that. And I wasn't even thinking of it in terms of this is just one of my really difficult experiences, and so I'm going to have some way more difficult. That's preparing me for something that's going to be way worse, and not just one more thing, but 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 15 and 20 and 50 more things. That wasn't my mindset. And now I realize that this is my life. This is the Christian walk. This is life, period. And I know we all want to believe that other people have it better than us, and we all want to believe that we're alone and no one can understand, but that's just not the truth of the matter. And I wish I could tell you what this thing is that happened this week, because it would really make sense to you that there are so many people, I mean like a huge percentage of the population, dealing with the very same thing. It is this world. And so we are to be looking forward to that joy, or experiencing that joy in the Lord. You know, the Nehemiah says the joy of the Lord is your strength. We're to be having that now, but we're to be looking forward to that everlasting, eternal joy in heavenly places with our Father. And if we're so happy and joyous in this life, how can we really be looking forward to that? And that is so much easier said than done. I know I'm preaching right here, but trust me, I'm feeling it. And so one of the things, my counselor and I talked about that, and how, yeah, this is the life of a Christian, and we don't get to choose what those struggles are, and we don't get to choose what we have to go through as opposed to avoid. And also, we talked about trust. You know, I was talking about not being able to trust, and this was so comforting when she told me that I don't have to. And I thought, oh, wow. She's like, no, you don't have to. You don't have to. Our trust in people is supposed to be limited. And I was aware of that, but still there's certain people you feel like you should be able to trust to a certain point, a certain standard. But she was like, no, we're supposed to trust people to a limited point. She said, like, you trust the garbage man to pick up the trash. You can do that, you know, things like that. But what's important is you trust God. Him you can trust. And the word even tells us that. We can trust. But it's okay. You don't have to trust this person. But that was so freeing. Trust God. And thinking about that along with this life and the nature of it, it is drawing me. Even though I've been a Christian my whole life. I mean, I've certainly had seasons where I wasn't following him. But since I've been out of college, I mean, I've been on this walk of seeking God and pursuing him, and I love God, but I do realize that I am often, like I think most of us are, consumed with whatever I'm dealing with. You know, even though I'm praising God and worshiping him, I definitely worship him more than I used to. But not just singing, but seriously deep down worshiping him for who he is. And so just on another level. I mean, I've always been a worshiper. I've always been a worship leader, but it's just on a whole nother level. And it's like when you think about Job and when you think about Joseph in the Bible and all their suffering, and they didn't cause any of it. And God allowed it. I have to remember God allows this. God has a purpose for us, for this. There is a reason. And so my homework is to, write my trauma again and start the first day, which would be tomorrow, I guess, because I just got back, and to write out, any challenges. And then there's a whole nother worksheet. And honestly, I was in a fog. I don't really remember exactly what I'm supposed to do on that worksheet, other than it really breaks down those stuck points and the things that you say to yourself a lot. So I'll be talking about that next week. And I also am going to link for you guys this song called Though He Slay Me. And it's a song that we listen to at a class at church, and that it's ministering to me a lot right now. And I hope it'll minister to you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for letting me rant. And thank you for supporting me and my channel. If you have not subscribed to it, please do so. And all of my subscribers get an additional discount from my Organized Planner Chic Etsy shop, and that discount is in the comments below, and there's a new one every month. And also check out my Organized Planner Chic Crew Facebook group, where I do a free coloring page that you download, and I do a giveaway almost every single month. And until next time, everyone, happy planning.